Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from dcx, and welcome to our every other Tuesday Q&A AMA. It's an Ask Me Anything. I'm here for your free mentoring and advising, and of course, since it is the second Tuesday of the month, we also have Dr. Nick, who will be joining us in just a moment. As always, I want to thank everyone who is a past or future, or of course present, paid member of our Patreon. But I'm also very happy to have all of the free members of the Patreon at this time. Please do not feel like you have to pay for the Patreon. It's been very quiet lately since a lot of my work has turned to life after tech, but thanks to the people who have been showing their support emotionally and financially. And hello, Ana Lucia. So I'm going to bring in Dr. Nick, and then I'm going to start with some questions we got ahead of time. If you would like to ask a question, you can put it in the chat, though it will show up with your name on it. If you'd like to write a longer question or you want to be more anonymous, send it over to dcx.to. On that page, you've got all of our links to everything. I'm now on Blue Sky because I'm trying to replace Instagram and LinkedIn, and you'll also see where to ask a question anonymously. And with that, let's bring in our old friend, because we've been doing this for years now. How many years have we been doing this, Nick, this show?
You have to tell me. It's many.
4?
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, we've been doing this since before the pandemic, haven't we?
I think so. I do. Yeah, because I started my channel in just before the pandemic. I started the channel, the old dcx channel, in October 2019. And then I think we probably started the show the year after. So we've probably been doing this 4 years. Hey, yeah. Diana. Diana has only the coolest dog in the world. I follow her dog on Instagram. That is the only thing good about Instagram, is following other people's dogs, and you can quote me. Nick, any introduction you want to give to yourself, or anything you want to plug that you're doing or selling?
Nah. You guys know me. I'm not a self-promoter unless I've got something to actively promote, which is rare. So no, you guys know me. Just here to help.
Sames. Yeah, Ana Lucia says it's freezing outside. I'm glad to be inside with my heater and watching the AMA. You can see I'm cold today. I'm wearing my crappiest hoodie. You're all welcome. And I'm wearing a very cool scarf one of my best friends got me, which has dogs all over it. Very me.
I'm wearing a 25-year-old hoodie with like the most ridiculous holes in it.
Yes, me too. Hold on.
Right, and I love this thing. I'm not getting rid of it. I don't care. This thing's gonna fall off of me. I love this. It's been with me on a long journey. It's going nowhere.
I stole this from Pier Mario when we started dating, and then it's just been totally like eaten to hell. And so yeah.
Mine is so bad.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so happy that neither of us are dressing up for this show.
This is vintage Abercrombie. It's worth an absolute fortune now.
Because you're a male model.
It was like $20 back in the day.
Right. Diana says she is super cool about her own dog. She is super cool and cute. We follow the excited adventures of all of your puppies. Yes. And Shweta says, hello, it's been forever. Yes, welcome back. So I actually did get some questions ahead of time, though people are welcome to send theirs in. We'll get them on the list. And I'm going to get the first one up on the screen. And as always, we'll throw it at Dr. Nick first. And the audience, you're welcome to give us your answers as well. This came from someone in our Discord community who is changing jobs, and it was actually asked to help find the person who would replace them at the job they were leaving. And they said, I'm interviewing for someone to replace my role and have asked each candidate to provide a case study to present. I've made notes of what I would like to see, but wanted other opinions. I wanted to make a checklist of what to look for in a case study. So, Dr. Nick, if you were looking at a portfolio or case study, what you looking for?
You know what? As I'm quickly trying to answer this question, I think this applies to everything. I'm looking at how people think.
Agree.
Right? It's that's the bottom line. It's how people think. How you express that, cool, but it's the thinking underneath it. So, in my world, I like, when I say language, I like to know that somebody's digging around looking for needs and pains and trying to, design them into the product. Something along those lines, right? That's sort of a mindset, not, or download templates and complete them or whatever BS goes on out there, you know.
Yes.
I want, you know, you hear people talk about portfolios, they talk about process and all that stuff. I mean, it's valid, it's totally valid. What they're really saying is, I want to hear your flow, your thinking, your you know, the decisions that you make, and that's really what it's all about. You know, I mean, also there's some character in this, like how well do they take a challenge? Because frankly, if you're a designer or a researcher, you should be able to take a challenge, right? And so you're going to get this case study presented, you can ask them some questions. Emotionally, how they react is also really important, as well as how factually they respond, because some people just take it in their stride, like, yeah, you know, that's a limitation of the study type stuff, right? Had to make a design compromise because X, Y, and Z. Fine, totally valid. Well, you know, move along. Not get mega self-defensive, and you know what I mean, and then, you know what I mean, you can tell quite quickly. Those are the headlines for me. Everything else is kind of detail.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think I would have to agree. Definitely, I'm looking at people's thinking. I'm looking for strategic thinking, systems thinking. I'm not going to say design thinking, but I'm looking for how do they do design in a good case scenario. Obviously, sometimes our case studies are, hey, I wanted to do this fantastic human-centered design process, but I was given this time and this budget and these limitations, and I had to do this. And then I can take a look and say, well, given those limitations, do I feel like they picked and chose the right things given the situation? Because sometimes I'll see a portfolio, especially from someone newer, and they pick and choose the wrong things. And sometimes it's just a newbie mistake, though if this person's replacing themselves, it's probably with a more senior person. But I wouldn't want to see somebody with a limited amount of time and a limited budget say, and then I spent a lot of time on personas and empathy maps, if those weren't really important to the project. So I have to agree with Nick on this one. I think it's really all about, so if this person's looking for a checklist of what to look for, I look for the quality of their thinking, and I look for the story that they tell me. Do they tell a good story? Can I tell what's going on here? Can I tell what the shape of the project was? Why are we doing this? Why did I do this? Why didn't I do this? And because to me, the storytelling of the project is a preview of how they might do a presentation at work. And so if the storytelling of the case study is lacking or messed up or disorganized or out of chronological order, hypothetically, this person might give that type of presentation at work, which might not be great for the coworkers. Anything anybody in the audience wants to add to that? Anything you would look for in a portfolio or case study? Meanwhile, I'll get the next question queued up while we see.
You know what I would say though? What I would say is on the presentation stuff, yes, presentation skills are critical. You know, facilitation, having a performance front for research, you know, yes, these things are all essential. I'm just thinking, and I'm just questioning, I don't know what I think.
Okay.
But the modern day interview, sorry, that's my doorbell. My phone should be on do not disturb. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry. In the modern world, we're talking about probably a remote interview and presentation, right? It's probably over Zoom or equivalent. That's not the same as standing in the boardroom presenting to the people. Some people are not performers, and they're excellent UX folk, right? Really excellent. Like they're just really introverted or neuro or both or what have you, you know. Being a gregarious facilitator or, you know what I mean, a confident presenter, it's a good thing to have. But if people can't turn that on in an interview, I'm not necessarily marking them down. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, they don't have to.
I guess that's because I'm trying to balance it a bit.
Yeah, they're nervous.
Yeah, exactly.
And excited.
People freak out on the day.
No, for me, it was not necessarily that. And I especially don't want to penalize anybody with any particular diagnosis or condition. It was more like just the shape of the story they're telling. And because I saw a portfolio recently, and without speaking to whether or not I thought the person did a good job with the work, the order of the story was out of order, because they were saying, well, first I did this, and later I did this, but then I did this, and the story was out of order, and that made me a little bit nervous about how would someone present at work when it's so important to be able to tell some sort of logical story versus telling the story out of order.
Yeah, what I normally do there is often that's betraying like wrong mental models type stuff, right? Wrong things in the right things, wrong order. And it's like, yeah, and then we did a persona, and then we did an IA, and it's like, wait, why didn't you do that before that, or what have you? You know what I'm saying?
It was that, yeah.
And it's because they're doing some kind of checkbox UX where they think they've been told in some boot camp to do this thing then, and it's not the thing that's needed. Or what I'm saying is they're using the artifact in the wrong for the wrong thing, or it's not doing the thing it's meant to do because it's not happening at the right time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
yeah.
I know what you're saying.
For me, UX back in the old days, and this doesn't stand as true today, but for me, a cornerstone of it was the ability to kind of absorb and communicate information in a simple way. Right? That's that abstraction, that simplification, that visualizing and presenting data or information was always a kind of a cornerstone of UX. I still see it today, and if I can see somebody who's really good at that, they just stand out for me. It's because it's one of those things, is you're really good at clarifying. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. It's hard to explain.
No,
but
I
the
got
best
it.
UX folk are the best abstractors and simplifiers.
I like it. I want to read some of the comments that are coming in. Shweta says, I'd say talking louder, modulating your voice, and watching over posture can make a difference for in person. I found I tended to talk softly and my words would appear faint over video at times. Some good advice there. Ana Lucia says, is it common to interview our replacement? So I would say it is not terribly common to interview a replacement, especially if you're working for or in America, because in America we tend to have a 2-week notice period. So it's usually quite uncommon that by the time you're leaving, they're even up to interviewing candidates. Usually they've just got the job description together and they're just putting it out there. So my guess is that this person is from a company or country or culture where they have a longer notice period, where they have to give a month's notice or a couple of months' notice, and that way they're around long enough for the company to put the job out there, get some candidates in, and decide to include this person in the process of interviewing that candidate. I wouldn't be against interviewing my replacement, but I've always found that to be a tough mental thing to ask somebody to do because they're leaving. And I'm not sure I want to put the person who's quitting in front of the new worker. Nick?
Yeah, no. Usually, at least where I've been involved with this sort of thing, it tends to be for the more senior or longer experience roles, right? So you got somebody who's a cornerstone or a big important part of the machinery, and after 10 years or 5 years, and they're just super effective and they're going, you know, usually you'd want them to find the best possible person. You know, they're not necessarily leaving on bad terms. You know, they just need more growth, bigger challenge,
Possible.
more money, whatever the reasons are.
Yeah.
You know, and often when that person is leaving, they're keeping stock, or you know, they've got some kind of paper, which means it's in their interest to hire a really great person.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever interviewed my replacement, but I could see it happening. Let me put up the next question while we wait for more questions for other people. We did get a few ahead of time. So this one was more to me, but if Nick has an answer for it, he's welcome to give one. It was to me, and it said, I've heard you talk about product market fit a couple of times. I also noticed you have a course about it. Okay, so I thought about writing a course about it, but I haven't done that, and I'll get to that in a minute. So the question says, can you share a little bit about this subject, please? What is product market fit? Hi, Melanie. What is product market fit? Who's responsible for doing it? UX, PM, is it part of a bigger process? At what point should it be done, or is it optional? Hey, Chiwat is here. Chiwat says, I think it would make it easier for recruiters if each case study is headlined by a statement that at least hints at why this story is relevant to the position applied for. That sounds nice too. That's a good idea. So, Nick, we've got a lot of questions about product market fit. Do you want to throw an answer out there?
I will after you on this one because I've got a strong and probably wrong opinion on this. So you should probably educate people with the
No, I
right
want
thing
to hear it.
first.
Come on, you first. You first.
Okay, well, look, I'll get radical. In the world before product management, you know, or recent product management, right? We didn't talk about product market fit. No one ever did, or at least not on my side of or our side of the fence. So it never happened. For me, product market fit is meeting needs and killing pains. You know, that's the fit. Now, there's a higher level to this, which is a market research level, where you're talking about where you fit into the market and all that stuff, and that's way beyond my practice or experience or anything, right? There were some great questions in there. Who's responsible for doing it? Well, I think these days it's the PM, but it was always the UX person, basically, before the PM. But now the PM is like the CEO of product, and they're responsible for everything now, apparently. Product market fit isn't something that is either formalized, that I've seen formalized, that people talk about in really vague terms. It's a bit like MVP. You know, ask 10 people MVP, ask 10 people about product market fit. Is it quantified? Is it anything? No. So it's just this vague term to describe, have you got something that meets a need in the market? That's my view on it. Sorry, that's what I'm saying. It's probably a wrong view, but I'm like, well, hasn't changed my life an iota. And it hasn't, you know, been a factor in any of the modern product teams I've been in for the past, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, right? It's not at my level, is probably the simplest way of putting it.
All right. Everyone sit down. So first let me say I was I was going to
sit
write
down and get educated.
Yeah, right. Get educated. I was going to write a course on this. This person is not wrong. I had put a placeholder up for the course. I had put a coming soon up. And then when I really tried to determine if people were interested in it, I got like 4 people. And so I said, you know, I don't think I'm going to write this right now because I don't think the appetite is there for it. Right now, people want product management courses from famous ex-Googlers. And I don't know if my product market fit course would make it. So that course is on hold because it doesn't make sense for me to spend months for 4 people to buy it. So can I share a bit about this subject? What is product market fit? Let's start with that. Product market fit is a term I first heard in probably 2011, though the term is older than that. But like Nick said, it's basically a fancy schmancy term, and sometimes you'll see PMF for it. And it's basically a term saying our product fits our intended audience, the market. So we can think about products that didn't have product market fit. If you think about famous failures, things that companies thought they had something really hot that people were going to like, and they rolled it out and it did not catch on. Whether these are famous foods that failed, like, what was it, Clear Pepsi? Clear Pepsi failed. And we've got other famous tech things that rolled out and then failed, or rolled out and had to be rolled back. I always think of, I think it was Skype's redesign in, 2017, had to be rolled back in 2018, and they apologized. So you could say that when you release a product and the audience might give it a try, but doesn't really stay. And this is where you get terms like adoption and attraction, which is people signing on or giving it a try. And then you have terms like retention and loyalty, which is people deciding to stay, especially once this thing costs money and it's no longer a free trial. So is this good enough to make people stay and especially pay? Or is this thing not that good? Does the product fit the audience that's intending to use it? And so, as Nick pointed out, there's a monster mountain of UX in there, and that in fact a lot of product market fit failures could be traced back to poor user experiences, but they could also be traced back to poor the wrong feature. You always hear people like Larry Marine saying, are we solving the wrong problem very well? So you could be solving the wrong problem. There's all kinds of things that could be totally wrong and not right for the Juicero, says Melanie. Yeah, Juicero is definitely a very famous failure. For those of you who don't know about Juicero, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, it was supposed to be this super posh, almost luxury juice machine that was going to give you wonderful tasting, fresh kind of fruit juices. Now, of course, when I tell you about a machine that makes wonderful, fresh fruit juices, you probably think, great, I'm going to buy fruit. I'm going to run the fruit on the machine or dump the fruit in the machine and I'm going to get juice out of it. But no, what it actually was you had to buy these proprietary bags of juice. And you put the bag of juice in the machine and the machine dispenses proprietary bags of juice. No fruit was involved. And so obviously someone got that way wrong. Someone who thought they were solving a problem did not solve a problem. No one wanted this. Nobody wanted to pay what I think was hundreds of American dollars for basically a machine that squirted out prefab juice at you. And then you couldn't even pour your own favorite juice in there because it had something that was going to read a code or something and only take its own bags or whatever. But anyway, that's a great example of not having product market fit, but it's also a reminder, and so you can see why this could be a course. It's also a reminder of why bad research sucks, because it's really easy to go up to a bunch of people, Chiwat, Melanie, Shweta, Ana Lucia, Nick, hey, Diana, would you like a better way to dispense juice? Or you could take an infomercial approach. Are you tired of containers of juice that are so hard to hold and pour? Oh yeah, I am. Would you like a better way to dispense juice? Oh yeah, I would like a better way to dispense juice. See, we're solving a problem. See, we're going to be a freaking, unicorn. So product market fit is just it's simple in definition, but not simple in execution, in that it's the complexity of creating the right thing for the right audience at the right time at the right price. So it's got elements of marketing, it's got elements of strategy, it's got elements of UX. It's really a simple concept that's very complicated to achieve well. Chiwat says, products may also find their audiences organically, like how Atsuko tiger shoes are popular with older people in Singapore, though the marketing seems to feature young people. Yeah, you never know who's going to say, you know what, I think this is actually for me, even though it was clearly intended for someone else. So yeah, that's an interesting kind of the product finding a new market to fit. So who's responsible for it? To me, it's a little bit of everybody. Engineers have to make something that's not buggy and doesn't suck. UX has to make something that solves a real problem. Researchers have to come in to make sure we're understanding the problems we're solving. I guess product managers should do something, but I continue to struggle with what they do. So I'm so sorry. I don't have something more positive to say about product managers. Deanna says, probably super broad question, but how would you determine if there's product market fit? See, this is my freaking course. Nick is like, I'm just going to take a nap.
Sales, churn, sales, churn rates, some basics, some fundamentals.
Yeah, I disagree with many of the common ways that people tell you that you have product market fit. Like they'll say, use a fake door, and if enough people click on something, you must have product market fit because they want it. Or they'll say the Sean Ellis test, which is this survey you're supposed to run asking people, if this product or our company went away tomorrow, how disappointed would you be? And if most people say they would be very disappointed, then you must have product market fit. And my thought is, no, sure.
Most people who were paid to participate said.
That's a separate story. But my thought is, we're now in a world where nearly every company has competition. So if that company went away tomorrow, I'll be sad for 5 seconds and then I'll pick something else. Like when Dropbox misunderstood one of my emails some months ago and they canceled my account, I was mad for about 5 minutes and then I was like, I accept. And I I pulled all my files off Dropbox and I paid their competitor and I'm happier. So, Sean Ellis test that. So I think that I agree with Nick. I think just key ways to measure if your product market fit is good is, are people opening their wallets? Are they staying, renewing, paying? And if you're doing some good UX research, what kinds of feedback are you getting from people when you can get good, unbiased feedback from them and not just crappy NPS surveys?
This is the dominance of marketing bullshit in our world. I can't stay quiet anymore. It's pissing me off, Like UX we were product. We made great products that sold well and all the other metrics that you'd like. There was no need for this product thing that comes along. The product market fit was, I've done the research. I understand this need. I've built something. I've tested to see if that need is executed with the people who I intend to use it. You do that a lot, you make a really great product. It's just that simple.
Oh, sorry, I had the wrong timer. Disregard the gong. That's for the half-hour version. And I didn't have my backlight on. Nobody told me. Yeah, so adding to what Nick is saying, let's see. Schwetz's got a question too. Hold on. So let me try to finish the last bit of the question, which I took off the screen, but I'll put it back, was at what point do you do product market fit or is it optional? Product market fit is not a thing you do. It's not like next we're going to do product market fit. Product market fit is really something that you should find at the end of a long process of hopefully human-centered design, because we're researching the market and what they need. We're now designing and testing to make sure, because you can know early if you have product market fit. If I usability test something, well, I was once part of a project where it went to usability testing and they ran it with 8 people. I didn't get to do the testing, but I was watching it remotely because I was the designer. And 8 people were shown the thing and they were put through a usability test. And 7 of them, without being asked, said, I would never use this. They said like, oh, this looks like a nice website. This is easy to use. I can see what I'm supposed to do here, but I would never use your company. And it had to do with getting sexual disease testing and paying out of pocket for it, which you don't necessarily have to do, even in America. 7 out of 8 people said, why wouldn't I just go to the free clinic? And that company didn't have product market fit. And they were a startup and they eventually closed, because even though I made a nice website for them and I made it easy to sign up for an expensive lab test, nobody wanted to sign up for an expensive lab test. So to me, product market fit is something that you should get hints at during a human-centered design process, and eventually giant flags being waved at you in the human-centered design process, where you can know early if this is likely to have product market fit. So it's not like there's one moment where you do product market fit. Nick?
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, that's in that particular case of your previous client, of the sexual health clinic. That, in my opinion, that sounds like a failure of a founder's failure. You made all kinds of assumptions, cut all kinds of market research corners, or at least competitive research or whatever you want to call that, to understand if where I'm going to go, there's a free version of what I'm offering. I ought to clarify the value in my paid service a shitload. If that clarification still doesn't do it, my business model is wrong.
The business model was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So that's not product market, or that's having no product market fit from the outset.
Yes.
Which
and
is
what happened
clearly
was,
a bad thing.
You're totally right. And what ended up happening was we did a little digging and we found out that this startup was funded by, drum roll please, American insurance companies. And the American insurance company was hoping that a service like this could convince people to pay out of their own pocket for a lab test rather than having the insurance company pay for the lab test. They thought if the test was embarrassing enough, like a sexual disease, that they could create a service, that they could create a service where you wouldn't want to go to your doctor to find out if you have syphilis or chlamydia or HIV, you're going to be too embarrassed, and then you're going to want to pay for this lab test out of your pocket. And they were testing this in San Francisco, where
or your spouse or partner or whatever finding out that you know what I mean. All of that stuff.
Well, the bottom line is they thought they invented a target audience that and this, they said this, and I always hate that they say, hey, I10, they said that their target audience was promiscuous gay men, because their assumption was that a promiscuous gay man wouldn't want to go to his doctor and say, hey, I've done this, that, and the other thing with one or more people. I should probably get tested. But yet in San Francisco, people were very happy to go to their doctor and say that, or go to a free clinic and get tested.
Yeah, that's like 1980s mentality, attitude, isn't it? It's like, that's decades old.
It was automatically insulting. As soon as they said promiscuous gay men to me, I was like, and let me guess, there were no gay men in the room when this conversation happened, because somebody would have been like, you're fucking what? And so I always thought it was absolutely insulting, but they did the company that did the usability test did a beautiful job finding gay men who had some partners who were willing to try the website, which was an actual prototype. And they liked the website and said, I'd never use this. I'm just going to go to the free clinic and get tested. And that's a good example of not having product market fit, even if you've made a nice website.
Yeah. And that marketing people have a tendency to be really, really evil. Sorry.
It was just an American, look, obviously American insurance companies are in the news this week, so no one should be surprised to hear that an insurance company had invested in a startup. This was 2013. With this sole purpose of hoping to find ashamed people who were going to pay hundreds of dollars for lab tests rather than tell their doctor. But I don't even think they thought of the free clinic. As you said, they should have understood you're supposed to research the market. You're supposed to know what the alternatives are, and that would have included free clinics.
I mean, it's so screamingly obvious, like, duh, right? I mean, really.
I know, it's a wacky story from every angle. Shweta says, what would be your response to people who say just enough is sufficient for UX design? Oh, hold on, Shweta, that's a fresh question. Hold on, I'm going to put you at the end of the list because we've got a list and there is somebody before you, because I think that's a fresh question. So hold on, let me go back to our list of questions. And so Shweta, we'll get to yours after we've got someone before you. But hopefully that's a good starter on product market fit. If people are interested in me writing a product market fit course, I'll reconsider it in January, but it's a lot of work for 4 people to sign up. Okay, so this question and then Shweta's question. This one came in anonymously ahead of time. No, this one came into our Slack community, and I said I would also answer it here. The question was, what are your guys' thoughts and experiences with UX coaches? They are people who understand the field of UX, but also understand how to get a job within this competitive and crazy market by giving you networking tips, personal branding advice, and more to land interviews and job offers without having to mass apply all the time. I feel like this is one thing I can do since there are so many ghost jobs out there, and the saying, it's not what you know, it's who knows you. So I have 4,000 opinions on this, but I'm going to start with Nick.
I've yet to meet a good one. That's a good. How do we do that? Now, I wouldn't know a good UX coach if they came and punched me in the face, because I'm not buying UX coaching services, right? The whole coaching and mentorship field is a minefield. That's fair to say. That's probably way too kind to say. It's riddled with absolute fraud. Right? There's that. Okay. Honestly, I don't think there's enough. I don't think we've got enough people who are willing to coach people with the experience even available in the world. And I don't think there's any way of knowing what good or bad look like because of the subjective definition of absolutely everything in our world. Right? So then how does coaching, I don't know. Okay, let me just cut to the bit at the end there. It's not what you know, it's who knows you. I think if that was true, people
Where's
who've
my
got a level of
job?
notoriety, yeah, like Debbie and I, who are known folks on the UX world, would just be like, yeah, here's my CV. Yeah, when can I start? I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth,
Some people have
right?
heard of me.
Okay, I'm a lot more notorious, I would probably say, than Debbie, and so I would understand them not calling me because I'm a bit of a firebrand. But there's Debbie, lovely person, says good, clever things, great experience.
Thank
No
you.
good reason to not interview her at the very least. No good reason. So there you go, right? That I don't think that holds true. It maybe holds true for other roles and other jobs which aren't so performance related. So if you can just dance around and point to stuff and blame other people, naming no roles, then yeah, that might work. I'm a really notorious marketeer or product manager or something where there's no attribution or blame, or then yeah, I suppose you probably can. But in what we do, it's a performance practice, UX or design and research of performance practices. One thing I do. Look, I think, are you asking here, will getting a coach help you get a job? Because I think that's reading between the lines what I think you're driving at here. I don't think that's true, unless that person is like a really massive enterprise company with loads of gigs, loads of vacancies and opportunity there. I just think there's too many people preying on people's need to get jobs right now. And I'm just going to be the voice of reason or reality that says you won't know how valid this coach is or not. And so they can tell you whatever you want to hear. And you'll be paying them or not paying them or spending time and effort with them. You don't know what direction you're growing in. You don't know their experience, what biases they have, what agenda they have. There's not many good people in this world, and I'm sorry to say that. I feel like a mug in this world because I'm one of the few honest people in this world. But you know what I mean? It doesn't do me any favors either. There's a lot of people preying on you. Just be careful. Really careful.
Yeah, and
sorry, Debbie, go for it.
No, I pretty much agree with everything you said, and it's even harder for me because I see myself as a UX coach, and so I have to be that person trying to differentiate myself from what I see as a pool of piranhas. There's a whole predatory universe out there of UX coaches ranging from people who will coach you in your work and check your work and try to help you level up and learn research better, learn design better. And then there's career coaches who claim they're going to help you with your resume or CV or portfolio. A lot of these people are selling packages. You have to have 4 sessions with them, 6 sessions with them. A lot of time these are hundreds of dollars. Some of these are thousands of dollars. And I try so hard to differentiate myself, my pricing, and what I'm doing from all of them. And I've put up a new website at dcx.to, where you can learn more about what I'm offering and not offering and the low prices. But let's talk about what the original question says. There are people in the field of UX who understand how to get a job in this crazy and competitive market. I'm not sure anybody can tell anybody right now how to get a job in this market. I can say to you, look, if you want to be a designer, get better at Figma. Well, I can tell you that for free. I don't have to charge you any hourly rate to tell you that. Everybody knows that. You can just go look at job descriptions, see what companies want, and that's a direction in which you need to expand. And can a coach give you networking tips and personal branding advice? Let's talk about those two things. Networking is an extremely complicated thing because a lot of people think, networking. Well, let me ask you this. We're all in a space right now. We're on YouTube. I've got Nick on the line here, and I've got a bunch of you in the chat. Are we networking? Some people would say yes. Some people would say no. Some people would say, well, yes, right now we've got Ana Lucia and Chiwat and Diana and Shweta and Melanie and Aitan, and we're all networking or something like that. And the last person's asking about standing out. We're going to put your question at the end. We've got a couple of questions before yours, so please be patient. so to me, this is not networking. So just joining a Slack community isn't networking. Just adding someone on LinkedIn isn't networking. The problem is that the nature of networking is you want something from someone else. Let's be honest. You want something from someone else. You hope they will recognize you. You hope that when there's an open job, they will think of you. You hope that they will put you on the top of a pile. You are hoping that someone else will do something for you. Why? Why should they? What do they even know about you? I have strangers who write to me on LinkedIn, "Dear ma'am, can you please recommend me for a job?" No. I don't know you. I don't know if your work is good. I can't put my reputation in a danger zone by recommending someone I don't know. And a few of them have gotten very angry at me for not helping them. But this doesn't make sense. So, as we said before, networking is not everything, and personal brand is mostly a lie. Nick has a personal brand. I have a personal brand. Most of you will never need a personal brand. You're not out there Well, I think you do.
Do I? I mean, I've got the brand that comes along with just being me, but that's just reputation, isn't it?
But the same for me. I've got, in that sense, it's a personal brand. It's not like you're Nick with a R in a circle and you have some sort of logo. It's that you have a personal brand because you are out there. You are someone who people see on videos. They see you at conferences. They see you on podcasts. They see you in places. You are a somebody. And so there is a brand that people who know you associate with you. It's going to be a brand of experience, a brand of honesty, a brand of education, a brand of psychology.
My brand values, but that's just, I'm struggling to see how, I hear what you're saying. I can't see how that's any different to reputation. It's just marketing speak for brand reputation type thing.
Yes, it is. And the problem is that a lot of people were told that the way you stand out when you're applying for a job is by having a personal brand. And the reality is that your personal brand can work for or against you. I believe that I don't get jobs because of my personal brand. I believe that I don't get jobs because people are like, "Oh, that Debbie Levitt, she's outspoken," or "Oh, that Debbie Levitt, she's going to want to create change." And so because there are things associated with my reputation or my personal brand, they have the potential to work against me if the company doesn't want that. So in general, I think if you're not speaking at conferences, writing books, offering courses, appearing on podcasts, appearing on YouTube shows, you don't need a personal brand. You might not need one, you might not have one.
I'm done with the popularity contest, right? Like the people pleasing, personal brand stuff. Obviously, right? You can tell because I just don't genuinely care. I think the world needs to get rid of this personal brand stuff, right? It's either a mask or a really horrible mask, and that's not really that good either. This idea that everybody's got to like you is a really dangerous place to be in terms of frames of thought. Right? It will change your behavior and your thinking in ways that are not good. Right?
Sorry, I'm laughing at an email I got. I'm not laughing at you. I agree with you.
I want to see a reversal on personal brand and a move towards individuality and individual expression, because not everyone's going to like you. If your personal brand is polarizing, maybe if mine is or yours is or has kind of elements of that, great. That means you're getting rid of the people who don't have value to you and attracting the people that do. In a big, wide open, clear world or transparent world, that seems to be a good thing. I want to see, you know what I mean? I want more filtering, not less.
To me, the bottom line is no matter what your opinion is on personal brand, I've never seen a hiring manager go, "Oh, yeah, this candidate looked really interesting. I like their portfolio." You know where I'm going. "I like their portfolio. They seem like they know what they're doing. But I don't know, this personal brand, I'm just not feeling it."
Who the fuck is this person?
I'm I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling this personal brand. I don't think that, said no one ever. I just don't think
Exactly.
I just don't think that's a thing. And so I think that if you have a good resume or case studies or portfolio, you present yourself. Like, the personal brand is some ridiculous term somebody put on this, and it doesn't make sense. So let's throw it out the window. And ultimately, when people tell me, oh, networking, I think about the people who I've recommended for jobs recently, or I've thought about, gee, if I were hiring, who would I hire? And I think about the people who have come to me for coaching. Now, why? Because they've shown me their work. Because I've watched them work. So and I'm not going to name any names because who I coach is confidential, but when I think about who I've recommended for jobs or who I've hired when I was given the chance to hire or who I would like to work with, it's mostly the people who have come to my coaching and shown me their work and said, help me tell this story or help me do this better. And then I saw their thinking and who they were and how they worked. And I thought, man, I'd really like to work with this person. Or gee, I would think about them if someone came to me looking for this type of person in a job. And to me, that's the networking. The networking is I got to know you and your work on a deeper level, because a LinkedIn connection is just about the most surface thing out there. I've got a deeper connection with the person who pours my coffee. And I don't even go out for coffee.
I'm in pretty regular contact with, like, not most, but a lot of people who I've worked with over the past 10, 15 years, right? That's my network of people who I've worked with, and I know the quality of their work. I know how they think. I know how to work with them. You know what I'm saying? All of that stuff. And that, for me, is the network to build, is staying in contact with people who you know are good, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I went to a Christmas party last week and it was awesome. When I said not the ghosts of Christmas past, but you just see all these people from previous gigs and places you've been, and it's beautiful. And you got war stories. What have you done since then? It's you're on the same level mentally, if you know what I mean. On the same, and that's fantastic. That's what, for me, why you want to network. I don't actively network. I'm a bit of an antisocial old sod, but I do totally value my networks. Jesus,
hey, Pepe.
I couldn't live without them.
Pepe's just joined us. Pepe, been thinking about you. Haven't seen you lately. Hope you're doing well. We were just talking about networking and how a lot of it is not really what people think. So ultimately, I think that if you want to try working with a UX coach, you can. Give it 1 or 2 sessions. I wouldn't commit to a large amount of money. I wouldn't commit to a large amount of sessions. If you think a UX coach can help you, try 1 or 2 sessions. So I'm in school right now for ICF style coaching, which is mostly on the life coaching and personal development side, but can also be used in work. And we are being taught to make magic happen in a half hour. And okay, we won't always get it right. It won't always click. But if you go for any sort of coaching and after 2 sessions, you're not starting to see something, and especially if you're putting in your effort, then do yourself a favor and find a different coach. That's it. It would be the same for me. If someone came to me for some coaching and they just didn't feel like they were improving or growing, or they didn't feel like I was helpful, go find somebody else. Like, you shouldn't be forced to work with someone because you agreed to X number of sessions. I believe in keeping coaching clients because I'm good, not because I made you sign something that forced you into a package. You know what I'm saying? So
I think people people maybe want that safety blanket feeling. That confidence that comes from knowing somebody's got my back when something difficult comes up at work.
Right.
Because usually you get that from your senior or your lead, but because they're not doing that anymore because they can't or whatever.
That's a bunch of my coaching clients. I am their fake UX manager because they don't have a UX leader. Yeah, so some people are doing the life coaching stuff with me because I'm moving into that and I need practice hours. And some people are coming to me mostly because they're in the work and they don't have a manager that comes from UX, and they need someone to look at their work or help them upskill or help them plan something or do something. And I'm happy to help. I'm happy to be that fake behind the scenes UX manager, and I'm trying to do it at a reasonable price. But this person was talking more about a kind of UX career coach who was supposedly going to give them networking and personal brand tips so they could find that next job.
It's a con. Run away.
I think so too. So I've got 2 more questions on the list that thanks everybody for your patience and all the nice comments today. This one came from Shweta. Pepe says, speaking of coaches, I'm recommending Debbie. Speaking of personal brand, I was thinking about it recently, and if people who are present on LinkedIn have some advantage comes to jobs. Evidently not. I'm still looking for work. But thank you for the kind words. Pepe is a fake name, and Pepe is one of my coaching clients. So thank you, Pepe. Okay. Shweta said, what would be your response to people who say that just enough is sufficient for UX design and that design is low ROI and that they're getting by with that? A lot of people don't understand the depth of the specialization or their limitations in terms of abilities. So, Nick, if someone said to you, hey, we're not doing very much UX at our company because UX is kind of low ROI, but you know what? That's fine. We're pretty successful. What would you say to that person?
I'd probably go out and have a vague yeah, exactly. I've gone outside, I've gone for a little walk, put my headphones on, chilled the hell out, and come back again after swallowing heavily. Or somebody puts me in a straitjacket and muzzles me before I give an answer. Okay, number one, how do you know any of the stuff that you've just said to me? What's the context for any of the stuff you've just said to me? Is that just a broad brush statement for all UX and all ROI? UX is ROI. That's the way I look at stuff, right? It's not, that's the bottom line. And everything else, you're missing the point. I mean, everything else is literally overcomplicating it. I don't even need to go any further. I mean, this is what I mean about simplification. Our world is so complicated. It's like moving the needle isn't difficult, but people are drowning in information and people selling things that they don't need. Sorry, but that's a tangent. So that's my answer, quite simply. Is just enough? I mean, that's ridiculous. Good enough? There are times when good enough or just enough is an appropriate strategy. There are times when it's wholly inappropriate. It's not a broad brush. It's not black and white. It takes a bit of skill and experience to know when to do what. Other times, your hand is forced and you just got to do what you got to do because that's the way the cookie crumbled, you know? But generally speaking, you're striving for the best you can with the resources and time that you've got. And if you do it in a user-centric way, ROI happens, or positive ROI happens, which is good.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing about UX and especially UX design is that even if a company has 0 UX people and believes that they're paying no attention to UX, the UX is still there. You know, like there is still a user experience. The problem is that you can guess at the user experience, and sometimes people guess well enough where they see some success. And the problem is that they then use that to reinforce that this must be a good process. Because we had some success with this, or whatever we measured to be a reasonable ROI, evidently not doing much UX at all must work. And it's very hard to convince somebody that doesn't work because they're sure it worked. So your main chance is to convince them that there's something even better, because you can't say that didn't work. They're sure it did work. Now, I see this from time to time also on LinkedIn, where non-UX people who are fighting me, though this is more in the past because I'm severely reducing my time on LinkedIn right now, but people used to say to me that UX isn't necessary. It's just a nice to have because you can release a product with no UX designers working on it. And my thought was, well, look, there's a lot of things you can do. You can release a product with no product managers working on it. You can release a product with no marketing having been done. You can release a product with no QA people checking the code. There's lots of things that we can do. But that doesn't mean that they're a good process or the best process or a process that would create better results or more money savings or some of the things we're looking for. So I think that these are hard fights once people have convinced themselves that this is good enough. I always call this the microwave pizza argument. I think the microwave pizza was in the Customers Know You Suck book, but I started using it before that, and I know Darren used to love it and kind of use it himself. But the argument was, if you go to the supermarket and you buy frozen microwave pizza and you're pretty hungry, it's probably okay. It's good enough. You will not die of starvation. You will eat some supermarket frozen microwave pizza, and you know what? It's okay. You had dinner. Next. But if you were to compare that to the greatest pizza place I've ever had in my life, which is a half hour from me, if you were to compare that to wonderful Italian pizza made fresh with the best ingredients by nice people who gave a shit, who knew what they were doing, this thing looks nothing like microwave pizza, tastes nothing like microwave pizza. It's just on another level. And I look at it that way. I think that getting by with the least UX possible, done by whoever, is microwave pizza. We'll say it's good enough, but we're missing the opportunities of what could be even better.
Yeah. I like that. That's good. I think it can go further, though,
Thanks.
but it's great.
Yeah, go ahead. Run with that pizza. Hey, when are you coming to
No.
visit?
Yeah, well, I want that pizza, by the way. Yeah.
I want to take you for that pizza. By the way, we had some friends visit last summer, and we introduced them to my favorite pizza place, and they went there so often they became friends with the waiter, and they started following each other on Instagram.
Well, okay. It's like that. I've got a friend that should needs to go there.
So yeah, this is the pizza place on the planet. That's one way to look at it. It's opportunity costs. If you ever study business, you learn about opportunity costs, and the opportunity cost is, among other things, the potential we lost because of something we didn't do. We made a decision to do minimized UX or diluted UX or fake UX or micro UX. Well, there were alternatives, and we didn't do those alternatives. What did we potentially lose by not having done those alternatives? This all could be handled with business. Product management used to be for business school grads, and then it became for failed yoga instructors and other random people. Some people are business school grads and approach product management very thoughtfully, but unfortunately many aren't. And so that's the weird thing, is that product management used to be the career for a business school grad, and they would think of all these things. They would think of the opportunity costs. They would think of all the stuff you learn in an MBA, and now a lot of them don't because they never did the MBA and they didn't do business school. Yeah, Melanie's right. Melanie says what you're talking about is quality. That's like episode 251, where all roads lead to quality. If you don't care about quality, you'll just keep eating that microwave pizza. Yeah, or you think the microwave pizza is good enough. I mean, gosh, I grew up in a house where we boiled spaghetti until it was a mush ball. I had no idea what al dente was. And we thought boiled mushy spaghetti was pretty good. And then I learned.
Yeah, but also, okay, I'm going to call this the Roach Coach version, right? You're out, you're steaming drunk, it's been a Christmas party, and just starving hungry. This is a situation everybody can relate to, probably.
Except
right?
for me. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and people with religious beliefs and non-drinkers.
I don't drink, yeah. I don't drink and I'm not religious, but go.
Okay, it's a standard issue thing that you get drunk and get hungry at the end of the evening, right? And you eat, right? And so you end up standing like, in my case, with like being a 16-year-old in Trafalgar Square at a Roach Coach buying a hot dog, right? Now, there's no way you're putting that in your body in any other circumstance, but it's good enough for right then because you're bloody hungry and you'll eat literally anything, right? This is just, it's just one level up from off the floor, right? It's bad. there are lots of other nutritional choices that you can have that will
That's
have longer
right.
term or less short term problems, shall we say, right?
Yes.
So the choice, what I'm saying is good enough is only good enough for right then, for that hour or
Right.
whatever, right? For that 5 minutes whilst you're inhaling that thing. It's not, it has bigger repercussions, or you know what I mean? You might get sick, or all kinds of stuff. So I just think you can think through that. It's a really lovely analogy. But the best part, I think, what your response was, the thing that jumped out at me, and I think what the audience would really jump on, is I've just lost it. Damn it! Fuck, my head went. UX happens anyway.
Yeah.
That's the stuff. It's like a Zen quote. Like what's the sound of an
One hand clapping.
no, or you know, when something falls on an island, does anybody hear it? Kind of
Oh,
stuff.
the tree falls in the forest.
UX, yeah, UX is happening. People have an experience. They form an opinion. They still have needs and pains. Whether your thing is doing that well or not is a big factor, and so they're going to form an opinion. We're talking about personal brand, and we're talking about product brand or brand reputation, or the way they think about that thing, and whether they'd buy it again, recommend it to their friends, or even whether they'd buy it in the first place. So to say like UX is low ROI or we're not doing UX it's not just immature, it's off the reservation immature.
So then, Nick, I'm going
Right?
to ask you Shweta's follow-up question, and then we have one more question, then we'll get out of here. Do you have a little extra time today, Nick?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Great, thank you. Shweta's follow-up question was, is there a place for us at such orgs? Is there a career path you're not rewarded for your efforts?
So are you asking, is there a place for UX people
At an org that's
organizations?
at an org that's doing just enough UX and doesn't think that design offers much ROI.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's some of the best places to do the most good, because that opportunity, that potential is massive, right? When the only way is up, you got to be the one to take them there. Now, that can be a hard slog, and I think most of us have experienced that either currently or in previous lives in the past 5 years, because maturity's been nose diving, not climbing, right? Shweta, that's you asking the question. There is definitely a place for us in such orgs. It's probably,
Well done, Pepe.
it depends. I want to say for a younger person, but you need a whole ton of experience and a whole ton of resilience. But if you've got energy and vision and your passion, that can also carry you too. But it gets hairy. It's a lot of re-education. People don't like being told that they're wrong. You have to show, not tell. Evidence does all the talking. Low attention span stuff. Showing the delta. A versus B, uplift of 30, whatever. Those sorts of things. It's like going back in the time machine, going back 15 years to the beginning of kind of UX kind of stuff, which is when everybody was low maturity, and we learned exactly how to raise the maturity, and then we just ignored it and went back to top down. Sorry, I could rant about this stuff all day.
Yes, and thank you for being here to do that. And of course, we'll see you again next month. But my answer for this of should you work at this org and is there a career path is going to be org specific. Like I can't say this is always going to be the right place to work or it's never going to be the right place to work. To me, it depends on two factors. Number one, are they open to change? Are they open to improving the way they do things? Right now, many companies are not. They're they're convinced that the way they're doing things is wonderful and perfect, even though it's full of holes and the bucket is leaking. They still want to pretend it's perfect. That organization is probably not open to you coming in and saying, gee, there's a better way to do UX. So then the second thing is, are you okay going into an organization that is immature and sees UX as low ROI and just working there to make money and put some money in your pocket and go put your passion somewhere else. You don't have to love your job. You just have to make some money and eat. So, I think these are some questions to ask before making any sort of decision about working in a place. That would be my thoughts there.
I'm going to just say one thing there. I mean, me personally as ADHD boy, I have to love it, because the minute I don't love it, I'm big problem child, or I'm leaving, or both, or being booted out.
That's
So I have
fair.
to love what I do, because that's where the passion comes from. Do you know what I'm saying? That's where my motivation and energy and everything comes from. If I'm not into it, I can't do it. I'm like a donkey or whatever, just lazy and pointless.
Well, read
Yeah, I
Life
know.
After Tech and see if you can find something rewarding about even the not great job. Chi Watt says, could UX be positioned as part of innovation? User expectations change with the times. If there's no UX work, we won't always have the same product. I think the problem with that, to me, Chi Watt, is that since UX is so disempowered right now, I don't see how we change how we're positioned. Like no matter how we position ourselves, someone else always seems to win that battle. Like when we say, "Hey, we're strategic," product managers go, "No, we're strategic. You shut up." And we say, "Hey, we're innovative," and someone else says, "No, we're innovative. You just make those Figma screens." So, Chiwad, I agree that UX could be part of innovation, but the problem is that who's going to run with that? I'm not sure anybody's going to run with that.
Yeah, no. UX has always been a major innovation thing. It's just we don't, because the UX UI thing came along and basically kind of redefined UX as some kind of visual art. All of that UX thinking, that UX mindset, which had some clarity and simplification and innovation and iterative testing, all of that is still within the UX world. It's just in a corner that no one really knows about. That's kind of the problem here. And I'm going to go even a bit further. A lot of the design leaders responsible for UX don't even know this stuff is even in the building. So how are you going to find it?
We've got
bring back seniors. Rah rah rah.
We just had another question come in, but let's do the question before the question. So we've got this question and one more. This question says, any tips for standing out as a junior UX designer beyond design thinking? I'm struggling to show that UX is more than visuals, as I focus on true UX, user-centered design, not UI skills. Ooh, I have a lot to say about that, especially after a disagreement with Hong Shu in my community the other day, publicly. Nick, thoughts? Standing out as a junior designer.
Yeah, I haven't been in the design side of the house for some time now, probably 10 years, maybe 8 years. However, looking at it, I work with UX designers of all shapes and forms all day and all night. The ones that are not top down are the ones that are doing the good work. Put another way, the ones that are working with a researcher or doing their own research and infusing that into their designs are the ones that stand out for me, because they're demonstrating the thinking. And I've had meetings today with UX designers talking about this stuff all together. I've got some fairly controversial ideas on this that aren't even that controversial. Whereas if we're democratizing research, I'd rather train a designer up to do research than a frigging PM all day and every day. Because I was a researcher and designer, so is Debbie. UX as an architect or consultant role, the all-in-one that this was all came from, was all about research into design. Right, so we were researchers and designers. It's just I'm a researcher who blags design. There are designers who blag research, because there's very few unicorns who are really awesome at both. So yeah, hope that that's it. Basically, is it? We don't talk about UX thinking or user-centric thinking, but that's what we're talking about.
So my answer to this is, so the discussion I had with Hong in my Slack the other day, and this was public so I can speak to it, anyone could see it. He basically said that because he's seeing nearly only UX design roles that want UI design, and that many UX designers like you don't want to focus on the UI skills or the visuals or the branding. You want to do traditional UX. There's a mismatch there. There's what the people want to do or can do or prefer to do or are strong at doing. And then there's what the job wants you to do. And many of these jobs want you to do the UI and the visuals and the branding. And that's part of why I stopped applying to design jobs, because they started becoming heavier in that. And I'm more traditional UX designer, information architect. So Hung said his advice to everybody is going to be to upskill on UI as fast as you can and apply to the design jobs that exist and do the UI work. And you may or may not get to do UX work at the job, but at least you'd have a job. That is my impression of what Hung's advice would be. I don't think design thinking makes you stand out as a designer. I'm against design thinking. So to me, you potentially stand out negatively. When I see a portfolio that has a lot of heavy design thinking stuff in it, that is usually not a strength for me. But for example, I did see a junior portfolio recently from someone who wanted some coaching from me, and it looked like they had learned a lot of design thinking, a lot of that stuff, but they said to me, I've started to change this process because some of this doesn't seem to make sense. And I was like, and I would love to work with you because you are thinking. And so I think that, and that makes me excited about that person. And so, Deanna says, I have a feeling these days UX designer is just someone who can draw screens. And Ana Lucia says, I won't do UI, that's final. And Chiwat says, Meta is hiring a content designer to create decks for presentations for senior management. I was approached by a recruiter for this role. Shweta says, I don't see it as just UI. It's not even good UI. It's not asking questions. Even UI is a research-led process, and good UI designers don't want to do UX. Yeah, there's a lot of problems going on here, but ultimately my advice of how do you stand out as a junior designer is, I don't have very good news for you, because there is a flood of junior designers right now. And to me, I can't tell you how to stand out until I see your portfolio or your resume, or I see the jobs you're applying for. If I look at the job and they say, ooh, it'd be nice to have these things, then that's how you stand out. You stand out by having the nice to haves. It's really become quite simple. In the old days, our advice was more complicated about how to stand out. For example, how do you stand out 6 years ago? By actually knowing information architecture. Some people still knew that term. They cared if a designer knew information architecture. If you were being hired by a UX veteran, they wanted you to know UX architecture. But nowadays, information architecture. Nowadays, people don't use that term very much. They don't care if you're good at information architecture or not. And it's harder to stand out. You can't say like, hey, check me out, I know information architecture. People will be like, what? So I don't have great advice on how can you stand out in a world that just, in my opinion, wants most UX designers to be production designers. Take orders, make the nice things, do a Figma screen.
Iterate with evidence. That separates the
A/B test.
No. Just honestly, like, a UX UI or a visual designer is very a top-down process, right? Whether you take inspiration or template or whatever you do, you just put stuff down, draw stuff, and that's it, done, right? Somebody criticizes it, a creative director or somebody points at it and goes, have you thought about that? You change it, you do it, and boom, done. Couple more iterations and you're there, but it's never seen a user, right? So the designers who work that way have got no concept of iteration and learning from how this thing performs. So there's no concept of performance. So if you want to stand out, assuming the people you want to impress know what good looks like, you want to iterate your designs rapidly to see how they perform with the intended audience. That would be a basic UX designer need, in my humble opinion, but that's assuming maturity. If you push that too hard, they won't like you because you're just highlighting their immaturity.
Yeah. All right, we got one more question, and we're running super late today. Thanks to everybody for staying. This question looks like, What do you do if you're applying as a UX researcher and the hiring manager is the UX lead and their public design portfolio is full of UX and UI design flaws? Okay,
How
Nick,
do
what do
you
you
know
do
they're
if you,
flawed?
what do you do if your manager, if you've sniffed out your potential manager's portfolio and they kind of suck?
I'm going to be so arrogant now. And I'm not very arrogant, right?
Go for it.
No, this is a terrible thing to say. I shouldn't say it. Okay, during my freelance career, then at least that's like ancient, or it's historical. Literally, pretty much everybody I worked for was,
Crap.
not as skilled or experienced as me, and their portfolios reflected it, or their decision making, or you can just tell. Okay, number one, what you talk about is full of UX and UI design flaws. Okay, yeah, they might be breaking some best practices or some stuff, or there are really good design decisions made there that you just aren't aware of. Now, that does sound like a cop-out, but until your design is scrutinized by somebody and you're defending some of those design decisions and are far from optimal, is because that's what central marketing told me to do, or because that's what the design library had. I mean, I've been in GDS stuff when there's no help text, there's no subtext, contextual help in the library. Well, what do you do? What do you do then? You have to make some pretty wacky design decisions. So there's stuff that looks visually bad or might look like it hasn't got the thinking in it. Sometimes they're designing with handcuffs on or with blinkers on or whatever you call that. Other times it's just shit. You have to smile, ignore it, educate them. Also, if they are blagging, which frankly a lot of people are, don't call them out on it. I've learned that one the hard way many years ago. Smile and wave. Smile and wave. Do what you need to do. Don't worry about their work. Worry about yours.
Yeah, so my advice here is a little bit weirder, because what I found is that, especially given how hard it is to find a job right now, some people are taking these jobs and they're just looking for outside help, knowing that their manager is not very good. That's where I end up getting hired as a coach, so that people can say, hey, can you look at my work? I don't have a very good lead or manager. But then you have to look at the other side of this and say, do I think this is the kind of person who's going to think my work is bad and try to get me to do work more like their work because they're my manager and they're my lead? So imagine that, Nick. Imagine someone is not very good and they're your manager. How do they judge you? Are they going to recognize your good work and appreciate you for that? Are they going to ask you to change your approach or technique? And so I think I would try to feel out this person a little bit better, to try to, I would probably be asking some of my typical interview questions like, hey, imagine it's 6 months from now and we're having a conversation or you're doing a performance review of me. How do you know if I'm doing my work well? How will you judge my work? See if these, sorry, Chiwat, good night. See if they say something that helps you flip in one direction or another. I think this is always a hard way to go, and especially in a job market where it's so hard to get a job at all, you have to weigh, do I want the job where I'm working for someone who's kind of mediocre, or is that a deal breaker? And I think that's just a very individual decision. I can't tell you what to do with that. I can only tell you some criteria to consider, and then you'll have to make the best decision for you. Nick, anything to add? We're well over time.
No, this world is so crazy. It's hard to give advice because it's like Debbie's kind of saying, it's all so subjective. It's all down to the individual, and anything that we say may or may not apply to that individual or you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't know. The world is full of blaggers. Just focus on your work and improving you. Nothing more to add to that, really.
Yeah, good luck to the person who is who said that, who I guess is applying for jobs. And And I just want to mention that we'll be doing this show again in 2 weeks. I do it every other week. That would make it Christmas, right? Or Christmas Eve. So I may or may not be here. Should I still do the show on Christmas? Anybody have a preference? Hold on. Let's
We should
check.
do one where we both. Okay,
It's
I don't
Christmas
drink very
Eve.
often, but it's December, so I might consider it.
You want to do a drunk one? Is that where you're
Yeah,
going with
or
this?
I'll sit and do, and I'll do like a shot of Jaeger for every question that gets asked, or something silly, or every time product is mentioned. We'll turn to a drinking game.
Well, this next one is scheduled for Christmas Eve. I assume most people have better things to do on Christmas Eve. But, Nick, our next one is going to be the second week of January. If you want to get saucy and sauced for that one, I can't tell you not to. But I will be live tomorrow, everybody. So, and as usual, not drinking alcohol. I'll be live tomorrow because it's our every Wednesday Life After Tech stream. That starts at 8 p.m. Italy time, which would be 10 minutes from now. Check your time zones, and that will be on LinkedIn, who never shows anybody anything, and I'm trying to leave it. And also on, let's use a funny old-fashioned transition. There we go. Yeah, let's go. So I'll be here. I'll be on the Your Life After Tech YouTube channel and on LinkedIn tomorrow answering your questions about life after tech, about job sucking and starting non-tech work and all that stuff. So see some of you tomorrow. Nick, thanks as always for joining, and I guess we'll see you in a month.
Happy Christmas and everything that you celebrate. Have a good one.
Okay, thanks everybody. See ya.